So you want to know about keystones in mosaics, how to cut them and how to use them. Well, you're in the right place. I'm Helen Miles and I'm here to teach you all the tips and tricks you need to make mosaics. This, as you all know, is a square, just like this tile is square. So to create a keystone, you're going to cut the square at an angle on two sides until you create this shape. So the two angled sides have been cut away and the green shape is your keystone, just like this one. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to cut keystones and how to use them in your mosaics. So let's start by cutting the ceramic. I'm going to be using these compound nippers, which are just a heavier, more substantial version of the ordinary side biters that you use for cutting ceramic. If you want to know more about mosaic tools, then please look up my video called 5 Essential Mosaic Tools, which will explain the difference between the two types of cutters for ceramic. So you place the cutters, at an angle across the tile where you want the cut to take place. Can you see that it's placed diagonally across the tile, but not at an acute angle, not like that, but just slightly diagonally. And then you apply pressure onto the tile and it will cut. Sorry, that's my dog making strange noises in the background. It's not my children. Then you do the same from another angle, from the other side. And there you have your first keystone. Not all your cuts are going to be absolutely perfect, in fact far from it. So sometimes when you lay your cutter across the tile to cut it diagonally, it just shatters into useless pieces. So in fact it happens quite often, although it's not doing it for me now. Well, that's weird, because I made some earlier for a project I'm working on and got lots of shatterings. Anyway, just believe me, they do shatter, and don't worry about it, just keep going. Some will work and some won't. And in fact, if you're working with the normal size, I usually use these 10 millimeters, 1 centimeter square size, which is a quarter of the full tile. And then if you're working with these, there's a much smaller chance that they will shatter. Cutting a keystone in glass is more or less exactly the same process. For this, I'm using Lepinit wheeled tile cutters, glass cutters, and again, they're in my video about the 5 essential mosaic tools. So you lay the blades of the cutters at a diagonal across the glass, apply light pressure to the handles, and the tile will break along the angle that you've cut it. Now let's look at why you need keystones in mosaics. You use keystone shapes for a variety of purposes, and I'm going to look at two of the main ones. One for creating curves and one for splitting the lines, so going from one line into two. To show you how to use keystones in curves, I've taken this very basic wave design, and we're going to use whole tiles for this video, just because they're large enough for you to easily see. So let's start laying the tiles along the line of the wave. So I'm using whole tiles along here. So that's 4. And then I'm getting to the curve, and you can see that the whole tiles don't fit without leaving awkward spaces between the tiles, these gaps between the tiles. So if I wanted to use whole tiles, I would end up with these triangle shapes between the tiles, which are basically distracting to the eye. So you've got a series of little arrows pointing towards the centre of the wave, and that's not the effect you want. You want a smooth, flowing curve. So another way that you might be tempted to create a curving line in mosaic is by using slivers. So you get to the curve and you think, I'll just put one in there, and then no, that doesn't work. I'll put a triangle in there, and then I'll put a whole one and triangle. You see, you're trying to keep the spaces, the gaps, consistent between the tiles, but you end up having to use odd shapes, which again distract the eye and spoil the harmony of the curve. So it doesn't really work at all. So let's do the curve again using keystones. So I'll just, as I lay them, you will see that the keystones create consistency in the line, so that the line flows without there being any kind of weird gaps or having to alter drastically the shape of the tiles. So this is one that I made earlier, and you can see that the curve is smooth, but also, more importantly, the gaps between the tiles are consistent. So there are no arrows, there are no triangles, they're all more or less the same size between. And you can also see that I've used whole tiles here, a keystone, a whole tile, and then keystones again. So depending on how tight your curve is, you might be able to insert whole tiles to get yourself around the bend. So another reason you might want to use a keystone is if you're creating a line which you want to get become narrower or wider. So it might be that you're making the stalk leading into a flower, or creating a leaf shape, or even a boa constrictor that has swallowed a baby goat. Whatever it is that you're needing to do in your lines, you would get to this point. So you're building your line, and then you want to make the line wider. So one thing you could do is to lay smaller pieces, 2 smaller pieces, like that, and then so you're splitting the first line and creating 2 lines. So that's one solution. And then the other solution would be to insert a keystone. This isn't the greatest keystone, but I think it gives you an idea. To create, put a keystone in place of the 2 small tesserae. And you can see that that just creates a neater, simpler way of splitting the line. So if you like this video and you'd like to see more, then please subscribe below.